Underwood and Flinch by Mike Bennett. Read by the author. Copyright Mike Bennett, 2008 to 2012. For more information, please go to underwoodandflinch.com. Episode 11. At the sound of the door opening, Jose Almonte stopped praying. He turned his head as best he could towards the direction of the sound. The door had opened at the top of a staircase, a rectangle of light, broken now by the shadowy shapes passing through it. Jose made a sound of despair against the tape that covered his mouth, while in his head he resumed begging the forgiveness of the Blessed Virgin. The door closed. Jose could hear the footfalls of people descending the stairs. Then, one by one, they came into view before the sacrilegious altar. They wore robes similar to those worn by monks, but these robes were black, and the hoods hid the faces of the wearers. In rage and terror, Jose screamed at the figure who seemed to be leading them. They ignored him. The leader went to the altar, momentarily blocking the light from the candles. There was a sound, like steel on stone. Then the leader began to light other candles from the ones already burning. The other hooded figures took the candles and began to place them on the floor at different points around the room. Jose began to panic, his breath coming in short gasps. He strained against his bonds, sending ripples through his body fat. The chains above him clinked gently against each other. Then, at the altar, the leader picked up a candelabrum and turned around. Jose's breathing got faster and louder as the figure approached him, stopping at a point just before his face. Then the hooded head rose, and Jose found himself looking into the face of a beautiful woman. She smiled at him. Jose whimpered against the tape across his mouth. His eyes were wet with tears. "I say," said the woman, "well done, Belly. He's so big and fleshy. Better than those skinny crack whores and homeless types you usually get." The other hooded figures now moved in closer and raised their faces to look up. Jose immediately recognized the doctor from the clinic, the one who had kidnapped him. And there was the driver of the car, the younger man. The doctor smiled and replied to the woman in Spanish so Jose would understand. "Thank you, Lydia. He's an adulterer. And of course, being a married man who has been with a prostitute, he has told no one about his little visit to the sexual health clinic." Jose roared ineffectually and shook his head. He wanted to tell them that he'd told everyone he knew about his visit. Luisa, his boss, the chief of fucking police. But all he managed to communicate was stifled, impotent rage. "Don't worry, Senor Almonte," said Beltran in Spanish. "All records of your visit have been destroyed. It's as if you were never there. So there's no need to worry about your wife ever finding out about your little, indiscretion." "Can I touch him, Lydia?" said Cynthia. "Of course," said Lydia. "Help yourself." Cynthia came forward and reached up to run her hands over Jose's chest and stomach. "Oh, he's lovely, isn't he? I do like a well-fed man." "Oh, that's just as well, eh?" said Gerald. A ripple of amusement ran around the group, and he smiled, delighted with himself. "Enough," said Lydia. "The time has come. Take your places, brothers and sisters." Jose couldn't speak English and understood none of their conversation. As the older woman stroked his face, he appealed to her desperately with his eyes. She smiled at him, then turned away to join the others as they formed a circle beneath him. He watched as the leader set the candelabrum down on the floor, the candlelight illuminating all of their faces in its soft, flickering glow. The leader then turned and went back to the altar. Again there came the sound of steel on stone. Then she returned to the circle. Jose screamed against the tape as he saw the sword in her hands. He recoiled helplessly, his struggles causing him to sway and the chains to clink. Lydia held the blade out above the light of the candles. "Brothers and sisters of the Black Circle, on this night, this eve of resurrection, we give thanks and rejoice that after 50 long years, hell is set to open its gates and return to us our eternal master, Lord Underwood." The others replied in unison, "Hail the Lord Underwood!" "In return, we offer unto Satan this man, strong and ripe with sin. We ask that his blood shall strengthen and nourish us, just as his soul shall strengthen and nourish the fires of hell to whence he is bound." She looked along the sword into Jose's tear-filled eyes. He howled in anguish. She continued, "We praise the name of Lord Underwood, rejoice in his resurrection, and humbly beg that in his rising we too shall find life eternal." "Hail the Lord Underwood!" the others responded. "This noble weapon," said Lydia, twisting the sword so the candlelight flashed along its blade, "that has felled so many of our master's enemies, has been dry and wanting the taste of human blood for at least half a century. But tonight, brothers and sisters, on the eve of our master's rising, let us slake both its and our thirst, so we all may be nourished and strong and ready to serve our master." Lydia raised the edge of the blade so that it pressed against Jose's forearm. She looked into his eyes and smiled. "Hail!" She drew the blade across his arm and sliced into his flesh. Jose screamed in shock and pain, watching as his blood began to spill from the wound. The other members of the Black Circle watched as Lydia stepped across to raise the sword to Jose's other arm. Jose turned his head at the touch of the blade, screaming continuously against the tape. Lydia drew the blade smartly back and watched as Jose's arm opened in its wake. "Hail!" Jose shook his head in denial at the sight of his blood splattering down onto the plastic sheeting below. Lydia opened her robe and let it fall from her shoulders. She nodded to the others, and they too began to disrobe. Naked, she walked around the spreading pool of blood until she was in line with Jose's feet. Then she raised the sword again and sliced open each of his ankles in turn. Jose screamed, snot and tears flowing over the tape that covered his mouth. Lydia threw her arms back and let the sword fall behind her. "Now," she cried, "you mortals who would taste eternity." She stepped forward, so the blood that poured from Jose's ankles rained down upon her body. She gasped as if at the touch of a lover, then moved forward, raising her face to one of the wounds and opening her mouth to the blood. And she drank, reaching up to Jose's legs and caressing them as his blood spilled over her lips and down her cheeks and neck. Then she turned to her friends with outstretched arms. "Come and get it. Feed like the beautiful, eternal creatures you shall soon become." The others came forward, their faces excited and their bodies aroused. They each moved to stand beneath the wound and raise their mouths to catch the falling blood. Beneath Jose's ankles, Beltran embraced Lydia, caressing her, the blood on her body slick beneath his fingers. He turned his face to the wound and filled his mouth. He drank, then turned his face back to Lydia. She curled her fingers through his wet hair and pulled his mouth to hers. Cynthia and Gerald lapped together at the blood from one of Jose's arms, kissing each other and lowering themselves to the slippery floor. Miguel looked from them to Lydia and Beltran. Lydia smiled and extended a hand to him. He came to her, and she ran her hand over his stomach and chest and up to his face. Miguel looked uncertainly to Beltran, as if seeking permission. Beltran chuckled. He smoothed Miguel's wet hair back from his forehead and moved away to join the Bensons. Lydia drew Miguel to her, running her hands down his blood-slick back and buttocks before throwing her head back so blood poured down onto her face. Miguel brought his face close to hers, and together they drank. Then Lydia became aware that the strength of the blood flow was lessening. She broke from Miguel's arms and went to pick up the sword. She skirted around the glistening, writhing bodies of Beltran and the Bensons and went to stand beneath Jose's face. Too weak now to raise his head, he looked down at her, his expression strangely calm. She smiled at him, a look of genuine compassion in her eyes. She knew he was now beyond pain and near death. She reached up and caressed his cheek for a moment before standing on tiptoe to kiss him once on the forehead and whisper close to his ear in Spanish, "Go now, I release you." She raised the sword so its blade pressed against his throat, and with one swift movement drew it cleanly across. Then she lowered the sword to the floor and held out a hand to Miguel as she stepped through the spilling blood to join the Bensons and Beltran. They reached for her. "Lydia, darling," said Cynthia, "join us." "In the name of Underwood," said Gerald. "In the name of Underwood," said Miguel. "In the name of—" Beltran started, but Lydia pressed a finger to his lips. "No," said Lydia. "I think he's had his share of hails and hallelujahs." She took Beltran's hand and licked the blood from his fingers. "I think it's time you venerated me for a bit." Beltran smiled. "Yes, my lady." Lydia sank back, reclining in the still spreading pool of blood, and gestured for her followers to come to her. "Come, come and worship me, sinners." Gerald licked his lips and chuckled. "Oh, I'll drink to that." Conchita was coming down the stairs, wondering how she would break the news of John's death to Anna, the housekeeper, when she heard a distant scream. She stopped and turned in the direction of the sound. It was the corridor that led to the east wing of the house. Could it be Anna? Another scream echoed down the hall. It wasn't a woman's voice. David? Conchita ran down the remaining steps and into the corridor. A cry came from the farthest end. It was definitely David, and he sounded terrified. "David!" Conchita ran to the closed door at the end of the corridor and stopped. She knew this door. She had been told long ago that it was off-limits to her unless she was accompanied by John or Lydia. She knocked loudly. "David? David!" David's voice sounded as though it came from somewhere far beyond the door. Conchita turned the handle and opened the door. Inside was a small library. Directly opposite her, a section of the book panel against the far wall yawned open onto a dark passageway. "David? What?" David's voice came from beyond the door in the bookcase. "Who's there?" Conchita ran across the room and stepped through into the passage. Stairs led down before her into what she presumed must be the cellar. She began to descend. "It's me, Conchita. I heard you screaming. Are you all right?" "Conchita, Oh, Jesus, be careful! He's here!" David's voice came from somewhere below. Conchita reached the bottom of the stairs and looked around. In the centre of the cellar floor stood a coffin on a stone plinth. Above it glowed a single naked light bulb. Her breath caught in her throat as she realized it had to be Underwood's coffin. She genuflected instinctively. She had grown up in Almacina and Catholic school was inescapable, but her father had been doctor to Arthur Flinch, and she had grown up a child of the sect. She had genuflected to Christ because she had had to, but now she did so in genuine awe. "Over here!" David hissed behind her. She turned and saw David on the floor, pressed against the wall in the shadows beneath the stairs. He was holding the sword John had given him, swinging it this way and that as though to ward off an invisible attacker. His face was covered in blood. "Be careful! He's here! He knows!" His voice was tight with fear. Conchita looked around, confused. Who is here?" "Underwood!" Warily, Conchita walked around the coffin, looking behind pillars and into alcoves as she went, but there was no one else in the cellar. She came back to where David cowered under the stairs, taking care to keep clear of the sword which he slashed erratically before him. "David, there is no one here. Only us." "No!" David shook his head vehemently. "He's here, in the dark. We can't see him, but he can see us." She craned her head slightly. David's eyes were darting in all directions, staring madly, yet seemingly registering nothing. When his eyes skittered across her, it was as if she weren't there. "David, please, put down the sword. I'm not going to hurt you." "No, not you. Him, Underwood." "But Lord Underwood is in his coffin." "No, he got out. He's toying with me, like a cat with a mouse." "Please, David, give me the sword." David turned his face to the sound of her voice, his expression flickering between fear and confusion. "Wait a minute. You... How did you get down here?" "Well, I came down the stairs, of course." His face contorted with disbelief. "But the door! How did you get through the door? The secret panel?" "The door was open." "No! He shut it! He shut me in! He broke the light and then he shut the door! I saw it shut! And then he got out of his coffin!" "David, the coffin is closed. And the light..." She stepped aside so he could see. "It is not broken." "Of course it's fucking broken! Why is it so fucking dark in here if the light's not broken?" Conchita frowned and came around so her shadow didn't fall over his face. As closely as she could, she looked at his eyes. They were almost completely black, the pupils fully dilated as if he were staring into deepest darkness. "He smashed it! I don't know how he did it. Maybe he used a fucking force or something, but he made it go all weird and then it shattered. I saw it." "David, can you see me?" "Of course I can't see you. It's pitch fucking black." He's gone blind, Conchita thought. But how? She considered the blood on his face. It came from a cut on his forehead. Concussion? Loss of sight or hearing was unusual, but not unknown. "Okay, David, first of all, lower the sword. I promise you are in no danger. I want to look at your eyes." "But you can't look at my eyes any more than I can look at yours." "Put down the sword, please." "No! He's still here!" "Yes, he is here, in his coffin." "No! He's watching us. He's listening." "He is not, David. Trust me." Her tone was reassuring but firm. "You have hit your head and you are confused. Please do as I ask." David recognized the authority in her voice. It was the same tone that he himself had used to take when he was an ambulance man dealing with patients who were distressed beyond reason. Cautiously, he lowered the sword and laid it on the floor. You speak like you can see. How? How come you can see but I can't? She took the sword and put it out of his reach. David, you may be suffering from some kind of temporary blindness. Blindness? She reached out. Give me your hand. David held out his hand. Conchita took it and came to him. Don't worry, it's going to be okay. She reached into her breast pocket and took out a penlight which she shone onto his head wound. It was fairly superficial and had stopped bleeding. David clung to her. I'm blind. Oh, Jesus, you bastard's blinded me. David, it's okay. It can happen after a head injury. I'm sure it's only temporary. No, he's blinded me. This is punishment. Why would Lord Underwood want to punish you? As she said this, she felt him suddenly grow tense. He shook his head. I don't know, he lied. Maybe he doesn't like me. But that's crazy. How can he not like you? He is in his hibernation. He hasn't even met you. No, not physically he hasn't, but John said he came down here to commune with Underwood, and that's how he got to know him. Underwood must have some psychic power or something. I've heard of that, in vampires, and he must have used it to reach into my mind and take away my sight. Is that why you came down here? To commune with Lord Underwood? He nodded. Yeah, that's right. To commune. And so, what happened to your head? How did you cut yourself? I ran when the light exploded. I hit a pillar or something, but he was coming for me, you see, getting out of his coffin. You saw him? I heard him. You're sure? Of course I'm sure. Perhaps it was a rat that you heard. No, Conchita, I heard the coffin opening. It'd take some muscle-bound rat to lift that up now, wouldn't it? I'm sorry, but that couldn't be. Lord Underwood has not the strength to open this coffin. He has been asleep without food, without blood, for 50 years. You think I don't know that? That's why I came down here. Conchita frowned. What do you mean? David stammered. I mean, I thought it would be safe, for a first meeting, sort of. Conchita considered, uncertain, then said, I see. But he didn't want to talk to me. He wanted to kill me. No, David, you are his friend. If he has this psychic ability you speak of, well, then he must know that. David found her hands and closed them in his. I swear to you, Conchi, I heard him just as surely as I hear you now. I didn't imagine it. She took his hands and squeezed them reassuringly. I believe you, David. You do? Yes. She tilted his face so she could look directly into his eyes. I believe you experienced what you believe you experienced, but I'm afraid that what you believe you experienced is not what happened. She raised the penlight and shone it into his eyes. Immediately his pupils shrunk away, and he gave a small cry of surprise. Do you see anything? Yes, he nodded. A light. Dark, blurry, like it's shining through the bottom of a beer bottle or something. But you can see it? Yeah. Is it a penlight? Mm-hmm. So, what? Are my pupils equal? Did you get a brisk reaction? Yes. Now, close your eyes for me. He did so. So what, you think it's concussion? She smiled. You are a doctor? Well, not exactly, no. I was a field medic in the army, and an ambulance man too, until a few years back anyway. Well then, I think maybe yes. You gave your head quite a knock, Did you lose consciousness at all? No. Are you sure? Sure, I'm sure. I'd know if I passed out, wouldn't I? Not necessarily. You may have lost consciousness immediately, and all this talk of opening coffins and shattering light bulbs is just a dream. Maybe, yeah.
or an hallucination, both auditory and visual? The bulb is, after all, intact."
"Oh no, the bulb broke before I hit my head. I didn't dream that."
"I'm sorry, David, but the bulb isn't broken. Open your eyes again."
David opened his eyes, and the world appeared as if it were under water. He blinked repeatedly. Conchita moved in front of him.
"Can you see me now?"
"Yes," he nodded. "You're blurry, but I can see you." She moved aside and pointed to the light over the coffin.
"Then you can see the light too, no?"
David hesitated. Then, in a low voice, he replied, "Yes." Conchita patted him on his shoulder.
"So tell me, and please, think like an army medic. What do you think happened down here?"
David sagged. I don't know. I can't forget what I saw, what I heard. He was getting out of his coffin."
"To hurt you?"
David shrugged. "Well, either that or to change the bloody light bulb." She looked confused.
"You're joking?"
Yes, I'm joking."
"Oh, well, that is good then."
She held up 3 fingers.
"How many fingers do you see?"
3.
"Good. I think you will live."
She stood up and held out a hand to him. He took it, and she helped him to his feet.
"But you need to get some sleep. I'm sure you must be exhausted. You have experienced a lot today. Grief at the loss of your brother, the sudden weight of responsibility on your shoulders is a responsibility which you admit you are afraid of. This is stressful, no? I am not a psychiatrist, David, but I think perhaps your mind has been playing tricks on you."
David looked beyond her at the coffin. "No," he thought. "Not my mind. Him. Underwood has been playing tricks on me. I don't know how, but somehow he made me experience those things. I didn't imagine them. He did, and he put them in my head to drive me fucking mad."
"David?"
He turned to her. She was looking at him, concerned, waiting for an answer that would confirm for her that he was okay, that he wasn't going crazy, and perhaps, if she was anything like Lydia, one that would assure her that he wasn't a threat to Underwood. He knew he had to give her the response she desired. He put his hands over his face and slowly drew them down. "I don't know. I suppose so. Yeah, I guess you're right. I am exhausted. I was very drunk last night, and I didn't get any sleep, not proper sleep anyway. And yes, this has all been a massive shock, to say the least. Throw in the stress, the fear, and yes, I suppose I must have imagined the whole thing." She smiled and took him by the elbow.
"Come on, let's get you cleaned up and into bed. I have some ibuprofen upstairs. You must have quite a headache, no?"
He realized for the first time that he did. Yeah, a real bastard, actually. She led him to the stairs.
"Well, we'll soon take care of that. And then in the morning I'm sure all of this will make a lot more sense to you."
David nodded. "Yeah, of course you're absolutely right."
"Oh, one moment."
Conchita stopped and went back under the stairs. A second later she emerged, carrying the sword.
"Your sword? Why did you bring it down here, anyway?"
He licked his lips and tasted dried blood. "I just had it with me, you know."
"Well, you don't want to leave it down here."
She handed him the weapon.
"You are the guardian now."
Yeah. David took the sword. How could I forget that? Conchita came alongside him and put a hand lightly on his back, and together they walked up the stairs. Conchita urged David to go through first into the library. As he did so, she turned back to look at the coffin.
"Good night, my lord. Until tomorrow night."
She switched off the light and followed David back into the house. Thank you for listening to Underwood and Flinch. To buy Night Crossing and other stories and novels by me, please visit MikeBennettAuthor.com or search for me on Amazon. More episodes of Underwood and Flinch will be added to this YouTube channel shortly. In the meantime, please lend your support by clicking the like button on all of the episodes, maybe leaving me and other viewers a comment, and of course, by sharing to your social networks. Thank you.